All right, you guys. So 2 goals from Marcus Rashford at St. James's Park wins it for Barcelona against Newcastle. These are words I never expected to say, but here we are, and I'm so excited. Let's get into all the details of this match. But first, if you don't know me, or maybe be watching my videos without subscribing, hi guys, I am Just Max, and on this channel, I talk about football from the La Liga to the Prem and definitely the UCL. And now we're here because it's match day 1 for FC Barcelona in the UCL, and I had to bring out my vintage Barcelona jersey for this one because this one was one for the ages. It was one for the old times. Barcelona have not played Newcastle in over 20 years, and there was history behind this match. There was atmosphere. We were promised, a lot of things coming into this game. Newcastle, they won over the weekend. They're soaring on confidence. Barcelona, of course, they also won over the weekend, and also they're soaring on high confidence. They're missing a few key players, but that's notwithstanding because any Barcelona team is always a good team, and so we were excited to buckle down and get into it. But let's look at the teams that Hansi Flick and Eddie Howe put out for this match, because in goal for Barcelona has come to be our magician, our stalwart, our great wall of China at this point, Garcia, and he had a sensational game. Gerard Martin will come in on left back for Alejandro Balde, who again is still out on injury, but he had a good game. Pau Kubasi returns to Barcelona's center back position, and boy, I missed him. Our leader in that defense loved him down. Ronald Araujo would be partnering with Pau Kubasi today. He did have a solid game today, except he was slightly the one who was onside to play Newcastle for their goal, but I digress. Jules Koundé. If you watch my video even a minute of a second, you would know I live for Jules Koundé. I love Jules Koundé, and today he had a great game. In Barcelona's pivot midfield, it was Pedri and Frenkie de Jong, and that is pivotal because ahead of the game, we heard from Newcastle and Eddie Howe that their plan for Barcelona today was to neutralize Pedri, and boy did Frenkie de Jong stand up. Like, Frenkie de Jong said, "What am I to you, chopped liver?" I lived for it. Marcus Rashford comes in on Barcelona's left-hand side, and he had a great second half. I didn't think the first half was particularly great, and I'll explain further down in this video. But the second half, the 2 goals, oh boy. Once Barcelona hit those goals, oh Lord, it was a different game. Fermin Lopez was in that 10th position, and it was not particularly his best game. I wanted him to be fully himself. He didn't give me that today, but it's okay. He did enough. Rafinha also did not have the most noisy performance for Barcelona, but he did all the important things, and that is what I want from him. He played in that right-hand position, and of course, leading the line was Robert Lewandowski, who, the way they were just malhandling Robert Lewandowski, I was like, you guys, come on. This is an elder statesman. Relax. It's just a UCL game. But anyway, I digress. For Newcastle, though, the starting 11 include Pope in goal, Trippier, Schär, Byrne, and Livramento. They had good games, no cap. Bruno Guimaraes, Tonali, Joelinton was in the midfield. Anthony Elanga in that first half, sensational. And Gordon, who was one who got the goal for them, fair play. And then Barnes, they had an okay game. Let's get into it, because in the beginning, when Newcastle came out, they came out firing. They came out sizzling hot. They wanted to overwhelm that Barcelona backline, and for the first 2 minutes, the first 20 minutes of the game even, it was a little bit dicey for Barcelona. They found it very, very difficult to play out of the back because Newcastle kept on pushing. They wanted to overwhelm them, and it was also to the fact, in my opinion, that they weren't able to get Pedri on the ball, which was kind of the main thing. Like, they just weren't able to get him on the ball. One of the things that Barcelona likes to do to relieve themselves of pressure is to get Pedri on the ball, because once you get Pedri on the ball, he doesn't lose the ball very often. He's quite press resistance. So Newcastle kind of caught him out of the play in that first 20 minutes. They kept on trying their best to overwhelm Barcelona's backline. They threw men at it. And in the first half, in the first 5 minutes, they had a sensational opportunity where I think it was Anthony Elanga who had squared a ball into the middle of the 18-yard box, and the player had just miskicked it. If not, it could have been a 1-0 opportunity for Newcastle up right there. So I thought they really started out great, but I did not panic because I knew that just because you start out well doesn't mean that you can maintain this kind of intensity. And one thing I know about Barcelona is that they were always going to grow into the game. Of course, the atmosphere at St. James's Park did play a lot into it as well. It was noisy, but I knew that they were going to be okay once they get acclimatized to their environment. Newcastle though did have another opportunity soon thereafter, but it took a sensational save from Juan Garcia to keep Barcelona on level terms. And this is where I have to stop and give Juan Garcia his flowers. I was one of the people on this app who was on here talking about how Barcelona needs to sign Juan Garcia. I live for him. I was here every single day of the week talking about it, and I'm so glad that Barcelona heed the call and they actually gave Juan Garcia the opportunity, because today was his debut in the Champions League. He's never played this competition before, but you could have never told the way he stood and made himself big and prevented that, made that save. It kept Barcelona buzzing in that first half, because like I said, Newcastle, they came out like a firecracker. The environment was also playing into it. The fans were also playing into it as well. And so he did so much, in my opinion, to keep Barcelona on level terms in that first half. Now, once the first 20-25 minutes were done, it became the Barcelona show. It's just what it is. And I was like, I live for it, because I was waiting for it to get here. It became the Barcelona show. After 25 minutes, Barcelona started to get on the ball more. They started to attack the Newcastle box a little bit better. I felt like they were combining a little bit better. The first 20 minutes, they were making passes that ended up breaking up here and there. But after that 25-minute mark, and they had acclimatized very well, it was just skyrocketing from there, and I live for it. They were able to get Frankie de Jong on the ball. And one thing about Frankie de Jong that I live for in this match was that he did not put a foot wrong. He did everything that he needed to do for Barcelona. Him and Pedri combining in that midfield was sensational. Now, while they were trying all their possible best to try and neutralize Pedri in that midfield, Frankie de Jong, he stepped up. He stepped up big for Barcelona. And one of the things that between Pedri and Frankie de Jong that I loved about that in the first half was they did a good job of controlling the game. They slowed it down. Like I said, Newcastle came in with so much pace. It was like lightning fast pace. Barcelona needed a minute to calm things down, to catch their breath and to refocus the match. And between Pedri and Frankie de Jong, they did a good job of setting the pace, of slowing it down when it needed to be slowed down, of making it fast when it needed to be fast, and giving our players, and especially our defenders, some breathing room to breathe. Because trust me, they were putting in a shift at the back at that first 25 minutes. But after that, the things started to change. I lived for it. They did so well. In the second half, though, is where everything began to change for Barcelona. I felt like they came out a little bit confident, but much like the first half, Newcastle came out with so much energy. And again, just like in the first half, I knew it was only a matter of time. Just wait it out a little bit and you will get your result. And they certainly did. Now, I mentioned at the start of this video that I didn't think that Rafinha had the most noisy performance for Barcelona, because certainly they weren't able to find him as often as they could in that first half. On the right hand side, I would say somewhat he caught an isolated figure. Much of Barcelona's attack was trying to go through Marcus Rashford in that first half, which he wasn't having a good time in that first half. Between Marcus Rashford and Kieran Trippier was not giving Marcus Rashford any kind of joy whatsoever. And so I felt like it didn't allow, and I don't know why they kept on going to Marcus Rashford. It just kind of happened that way, I would say. But Rafinha, he did not have any kind of starring role in that first half. The second half, though, the one moment that he did have, and he showed up for Barcelona. He was involved in that Barcelona goal. And here is the thing, if you watched my video even for 1 second, you know that I love Rafinha. When Barcelona fans did not like Rafinha, I was part of the 5 people who thought that he deserved to be wearing our colors. When people are talking about who should be the Ballon d'Or for last season, I think that should be Rafinha. though I have had to accept the hard fact that maybe he's not going to win it. And the reason I love Rafinha so much is his tenacity and his work rate. The fact that a ball is put through into the 18-yard box and he's able to trouble the defenders, so much so that he comes away with the ball from the two defenders, who are, by the way, way taller than him. He comes away with the ball. He's not able to get his shot on. He has the IQ to play it back, gets it on to Frankie de Jong, who puts a pass to Koundé. And you guys know I live for Koundé. Koundé in combination play, he's lethal. Like going forward, that's something that he's added in his game from last season. The 2 seasons ago, he was more of a defensive minded player. Last season, he added that, going forward aspect of his game, and I live for it. He puts in that wonderful cross into the box. It finds Marcus Rashford. It was just so perfect. Marcus Rashford has the presence of mind and the strength in his neck to steady the ball with a powerful header past Pope, the Newcastle goalkeeper, who is not a short guy. He's really tall. Mind you, also at this point I have to mention, Marcus Rashford is in a position where the Newcastle defenders are at least 1.5 feet taller than him. Like all week long leading up to this match, one thing we've had to hear throughout is that Newcastle players are very tall. The tallest Barcelona defender is about 6'3", and I think that's Ronald Araujo, or maybe Andres Christensen, but like we had Botman Stad, and who's like 6'6" or something like that. Like we had all the Newcastle players, they're like tall trees, they're so tall. But come to find out, in a game of this magnitude, it is Barcelona with their lack of height who are going to take the lead with a header. The irony of it all. Listen to me. It was so ironic. I live for it. And one of the things I have to say, listen, today's Barcelona joy is proudly sponsored by Manchester United, because back on English soil, he shined in that second half. He shined. Like he gets his first Barcelona goal in the Champions League, in an opener, in a game of this kind of magnitude, of this kind of essence. It was just what needed to be done. Like I lived for him. Like the composure in that moment, I was so happy. And that too in front of Thomas Tuchel, the new English boss. Sensational stuff. And one thing I love about my Barcelona is that they are a front running team. If you do the mistake of letting Barcelona score, anything that you use your eyes see after that moment, count it on you, because once they score, they often get that momentum, they start running. And once that Marcus Rashford goal went in for Barcelona, it was only a matter of time. At that moment, they started to play with a little bit more swagger. Like you could see the energy literally drain out of St. James's Park, to the point that you could start to hear the away Barcelona fans sing. Like you could see it. And it was not too long after that. Listen, that Marcus Rashford goal came in the 58th minute. Marcus Rashford will end up doubling the scoreline for Barcelona just less than 10 minutes thereafter. Because let me tell you, they were playing with a lot more swagger. They were like, we are Barcelona. Like that's who we are. Like that's who we are. They play with a lot more swagger. And this one is one that I have been saying from the first half. I thought it was going to be Fermin Lopez to do it, because I've been saying I need Fermin Lopez to put his boot through it. But he did not do that. And today it was Marcus Rashford, because he gets that ball at the edge of the 18-yard box, and the way he puts his laces through that ball, it was a rocket. It was a rocket. It was a sensational goal. It's probably one of the best goals he's ever scored in his career. And to do it on a UEFA Champions League night, listen, tonight's Barcelona joy is proudly sponsored by Manchester United. And the irony is, Manchester United is not even in the Champions League. They had to sit home and watch their boy excel. I live for it. Period. Anyway, I digress. That's just me making a little bit of a light-hearted joke. But that was a very, very good goal. And immediately the second goal went in, it was over. It was essentially over. The Newcastle players, they look like they've been bitch slapped. They look like they've been sucker punched. They just had no energy going forward. I thought that Barcelona had the ball, the situation under control from that moment, that I expected things to go a little bit different. I'm a little bit cross that we ended up conceding in the 90th minute to Anthony Gordon from a very, very worked Newcastle goal, nonetheless. When there's something that they've been trying to do all game long, trying to square the ball, trying to beat Barcelona's high line, they finally were able to do it in the 90th minute. And boy, oh boy, was I hoping that he was offside. He wasn't. Araujo played him onside. So that's something that Araujo needs to work on, knowing when to drop it. Everybody else, because you could see like everybody else had dropped. It was Araujo. It was who was way, way not in the line at all. But anyway, it was of no consequence, because at the end of the day, Barcelona, they were able to hold their composure. And this is something that I think it was a huge lesson from how they played against Inter Milan, because I could see the maturity, right? After that goal for Newcastle went in, the Newcastle fans, they started to sing a little bit more. They had like more energy. They wanted to push for a draw. But the way Barcelona players were a little bit calm, I felt like I could clearly see growth from what we saw from last season, UEFA Champions League semi-finals against Inter Milan. They controlled the pace. They knew when to go forward. They knew when to defend. They knew when to hold the ball. They knew when to pass it around, just to like manage the game a little bit better. So I give them all the kudos for it. All in all, it ends Barcelona 2, Newcastle 1, and we're off. And guess what? There was no controversies. That's the best part. There was no controversies. We won this game fair and square. Off to PSG next, and Barcelona, I left third. Let me know what you think about this game in the comment section. Marcus Rashford did win the man of the match for the game, but what was some of your thoughts from this match? I would love to hear it, but until next time, bye guys.